What does Nostradamus's final prophecy really mean for the 13th of August, 2025? The future doesn't arrive, it reveals itself to those who pay attention. For centuries, his words were dismissed as poetry, coincidence, or madness. But buried in Nostradamus's final writings lies a veiled message, one that alludes to a specific, unsettling date, the 13th of August, 2025, a date shrouded in secrecy, yet pulsing with a strange energy. Why that day? What did he foresee? This isn't superstition. It's a forgotten warning whispering back from the edge of time. What if a centuries-old mind saw what we are just beginning to feel? You're watching The Journey of Wisdom. Like, share, and subscribe. This prophecy may concern you more than you think. Number 1. The discovery of the final prophecy. The prophecy that has haunted minds for centuries was never meant to be found where everyone was looking. Nostradamus's final message, unlike his famous quatrains of 1555, was not nestled among the verses in Le Prophète, nor was it recorded in any known compendium of his writings. Instead, it lay hidden, sealed away from the world in the cold silence beneath Sainte Rita Abbey in Provence, France. Not discovered in a dusty library, but buried deep in a forgotten archive, almost as if it were protected or preserved for a time when the world would be ready to hear what it truly means. And perhaps that time is now. Among shelves of brittle parchment and sacred relics, this singular piece of writing stood apart. No title, no date, just a chilling symbol drawn in aged ink, a blazing sun slowly devoured by a crescent moon, encircled by 13 stars. This wasn't decorative, it was deliberate, meticulous, the kind of symbol that carries weight beyond words. Later examined and confirmed to have been written in iron gall ink, the very same ink known to be Nostradamus's own signature, it bore every mark of authenticity. And with it came a name whispered among scholars, Lianier So, translated as the final seal. This wasn't just a forgotten paget, was a warning. A cipher not meant to be solved easily, but decoded by those paying close attention to the signs of the times. As the Buddha once said, 3 things cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. It's fitting, then, that this seal was marked by a sun and moon in conflicting eclipse, symbolic not only of cosmic disturbance, but of clarity being swallowed by confusion. As we look toward the 13th of August, 2025, the date believed to be the key to this final prophecy, we must ask ourselves, is this a moment of global shift or a moment of personal reckoning? The world we live in today, one of constant noise, distraction, political turbulence, and ecological unrest, feels eerily aligned with the kind of conditions Nostradamus often alluded to. But this isn't just about predicting doom. It's about recognizing patterns. Much like Buddhist teachings urge us to look inward and examine the causes of suffering, so too does this prophecy ask us to wake up, not to fear, but to understand, to prepare. The wise do not wait for the storm to pass. They strengthen their roots before the winds arrive. For the men listening now, those between the ages of 30 and 65, you've lived long enough to know that life doesn't warn you with fireworks. It whispers. And if you don't listen, the lessons come harder. This discovery isn't entertainment, it's an invitation to reassess your course, to ask deeper questions, to tune in to the spiritual, societal, and emotional signals we often ignore. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. So what do we do with this strange, ancient signal that points to a date just around the corner? We don't run from it. We use it as motivation to become more mindful, more prepared, more awake. Whether or not something happens on the 13th of August, 2025, the greater truth may be that the process of becoming ready is the true prophecy. And perhaps that was always the point. Number 2. Decoding the indecipherable. When we talk about prophecies, we often think of riddles wrapped in mystery verses that only a chosen few can understand. For centuries, scholars and skeptics alike have tried to decode the writings of Nostradamus, searching through Latin, Greek, Hebrew, and even the mystical language of Enochian, only to hit dead ends. His final prophecy, hidden away and protected by time, proved even more elusive. Traditional methods of translation failed. No alphabet seemed to unlock it. But then came a breakthrough not from a cryptographer, but from a sound theorist, a woman named Eloise Gardet, who in 2009 discovered that the prophecy didn't respond to language at all, it responded to frequency. Gardet found that when certain harmonic frequencies were applied to the cipher, patterns began to emerge, celestial patterns. These were not just artistic or symbolic interpretations, they were mathematical alignments pointing directly to one specific date, the 13th of August, 2025. Not chosen at random, not poetic guesswork, but something cosmically precise. It's hard not to feel a sense of awe when science and ancient mysticism begin to overlap, when vibration and sound, the oldest forces in the universe, reveal something a man from the 1500s encoded centuries ago. There's a powerful Buddhist story that speaks to this. One day, a disciple asked the Buddha, "Master, what is the nature of truth?" The Buddha simply struck a gong and let the sound ring out into silence. He said nothing more. The student waited, confused, until the Buddha spoke again. Truth is not always what you can say or read, it is what resonates. Much like the prophecy, truth does not always arrive in a language we understand. It comes in vibration, in silence, in timing, and often it waits until we are ready to hear it. So the question becomes, are you listening, or are you still trying to read a message with the wrong tools? The resonance found in this prophecy reminds us that the universe speaks, not just through words, but through energy and rhythm. You've likely felt this in your own life. When certain decisions feel right without explanation, or when coincidences seem too exact to ignore those are harmonics too, little frequencies of meaning in a noisy world. So what does the 13th of August, 2025, mean for us? Perhaps it marks a moment of collective shift, or maybe it offers us a mirror-ran opportunity to reevaluate the way we live, the way we treat each other, the way we ignore the quiet truths that have been vibrating beneath our lives all along. This prophecy, decoded not by intellect alone but by sound and stillness, invites us not just to prepare for a date, but to realign ourselves. Just as the harmonics needed to match the cipher to reveal its message, we too must dig internally and externally to hear what life is trying to tell us. The message here is not fear, but awareness. Not panic, but preparation, because when we're in tune with ourselves, we begin to hear what truly matters. First, learn to listen beyond words. Pay attention to your life's patterns, your emotional frequencies, and the signs that repeat. Second, know that truth often arrives in ways that are unfamiliar, just as this prophecy did, and our job is to remain open, curious, and grounded. And finally, remember this teaching from the Dhammapada. As the fletcher shapes the arrow, so the wise shape their lives. The 1st of August, the 3rd of May or may not mark a great event, but it can be a milestone in your personal journey, a day you choose to begin listening more closely, living more mindfully, and moving with intention. If this part of the journey resonated with you, drop a quick comment below, no need to overthink it. Just type, "I'm listening." It's a simple way to show you're aligned with the message and tuned into what really matters. Number 3. Why the 13th of August? A date across time and cultures. Let's take a deeper look together, not just at a date, but at a moment in time that seems to carry more weight than coincidence should allow. The 13th of August, 2025. At first glance, it's just another day on the calendar. But the more you look, the more you feel that something is calling your attention to it. Across ancient cultures, spiritual systems, and even cosmic alignments, this date has become something of a whisper from history, from the stars, and perhaps from within ourselves. Have you ever felt that certain days in your life carried a strange intensity, like something invisible had shifted? Well, that's the kind of energy many believe the 13th of August holds. In Egyptian astrology, this date sits right between the Lion's Gate portala time believed to open channels of higher consciousness and the heliacal rising of Sirius, a star considered by the ancients to be a source of divine wisdom and renewal. Meanwhile, in Mayan cosmology, this same time is linked to the birth of what they called the fifth Suna new era, following collapse and darkness. Do you start to see the pattern? Different civilizations, with no known contact, marking this day, this season, as something sacred, powerful, and transitional. Now let's bring in numerology, where numbers aren't just math, they're meaning. August is the 8th month, and the date is the 13th. Add 8 plus 1 plus 3, and you get 12, which simplifies again to 1 plus 2 equals 3. But here's the twist. 13 itself is seen not as a number of misfortune, as modern culture might have told you, but as a number of transformation. Across many ancient systems, 13 symbolizes chaos that leads to rebirth. It's the end of an old cycle and the uncomfortable but necessary beginning of a new one. And maybe that's what we need to talk about most honestly right now. How often do we resist chaos, not realizing it's the fire we have to walk through to reach clarity? There's a quote from the Buddha that says, "Chaos is inherent in all compounded things. Strive on with diligence." What if the chaos we fear in the world today, from economic uncertainty to cultural shifts to inner doubts, isn't something going wrong, but something unfolding, something realigning? That leads us into the sky above us, the map that Nostradamus himself studied with deep conviction. On the 13th of August, 2025, a rare astronomical alignment will take place. Saturn will be conjunct Neptune in the sign of Pisces, a pairing that only happens once every 165 years. These events aren't just historical, they are deeply personal. Saturn, the planet of structure, order, and consequence, meets Neptune, the planet of dreams, illusions, and spirituality. It's like order meets vision, discipline meets mystery. That kind of cosmic meeting doesn't just pass quietly, it demands attention. And Nostradamus, as an astrologer, would have known this. He understood that the stars don't determine our future, but they do reflect it. They are mirrors to what's happening on Earth and in the hearts of human beings. And so, when he marked the 13th of August, not randomly, but with deliberate symbolism and encrypted references, it wasn't just to warn us. It was to prepare us, to get us to wake up. So what do we do with this knowledge? That's the real question. Do we dismiss it as coincidence? Or do we take it as a chance to pause, to reflect, and maybe, just maybe, begin to shift our focus from fear to understanding, from distraction to purpose? I believe this is a rare opportunity. Not to panic, but to tune in, to listen to what your life is telling you. Are you living in alignment with what matters? Are you growing, evolving, staying aware? As the Dhammapada says, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. Maybe the 13th of August, 2025, isn't about external catastrophe at all, but an invitation to internal awakening. Maybe it's a cosmic nudge, asking us to examine the foundations we've built our lives on and decide whether they're strong enough for what comes next. Because in the end, every prophecy is a mirror. It doesn't tell us what will happen, it reflects what could happen, depending on the choices we make today. Number 4. Why hide it in music? The secret of sound. Let's talk about something that goes far deeper than words, something that Nostradamus may have understood better than most: sound. You see, the final prophecy, the one that wasn't found in his well-known quatrains, doesn't respond to language the way we're used to. It doesn't react to letters or symbols, it reacts to vibration, to tone, to the invisible yet powerful force of harmonic frequency. This means we're not just dealing with a code, we're dealing with a kind of resonance, a message designed to be unlocked not by reading, but by tuning in. And there's a quiet brilliance to this, because long before modern science caught up, ancient traditions across the world already knew that sound carries power. As the Buddha said, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." Now think about that. What if, instead of a word, it's a tone that brings clarity? The cipher embedded in Nostradamus's final message revealed itself only when exposed to precise frequencies, and the waveform it created, the shape it took, wasn't random. It matched the ancient Sumerian symbol for resonance. That symbol, curiously, also appears elsewhere, carved into the desert as part of the Nazca lines in Peru, encoded within the famous crop circles in Wiltshire, and even mirrored in the sacred geometrical designs of Sanskrit yantras used in meditation. Isn't it strange and powerful that different cultures separated by time, language, and geography kept returning to the same shape, the same frequency? The ancients didn't have smartphones or satellites, but they observed the world differently, deeply, patiently, spiritually. And maybe they weren't behind us in knowledge at all, but ahead in wisdom. This brings us to a fascinating discovery. When the harmonic signature of the prophecy was overlaid onto the Earth's ley lines, it converged exactly on Mount Shasta, California. For those unfamiliar, Mount Shasta has long been considered a spiritual power center, a place many cultures associate with energetic shifts, mystery, and even portals. And here's where it gets more astonishing. On the 13th of August, 2025, at solar noon, the Earth's alignment, the ley energy, and the harmonic frequency from the prophecy all synchronize perfectly at that location. This convergence isn't just poetic, it's precise. And precision like that doesn't happen by accident. And now, I want to speak to you direct, especially the men listening who've lived long enough to know that life's biggest truths don't always come with headlines. They come quietly, through instinct, through timing, through gut feelings you can't quite explain. We're being presented with something rare, a moment that combines ancient wisdom, astrological timing, sacred geometry, and sound itself. This isn't just for the mystics or the dreamers. It's for the grounded, the logical, the curious, the ones ready to ask the deeper questions. As Rumi once wrote, "Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure." Maybe what's coming isn't destruction but a reset, a chance to stop chasing noise and start tuning into something real. In today's world, filled with distractions, anxieties, and endless motion, this prophecy might not be a warning in the traditional sense. It might be an invitation to align your thoughts, your energy, your choices, and your life with what truly matters. Number 5. The echoes of other seers. When we start noticing that multiple seers, mystics, and ancient traditions point to the same moment in time, one not marked by fear, but by transformation, it becomes harder to dismiss their voices as mere coincidence. Baba Vanga, the blind mystic of Bulgaria, known for her hauntingly accurate predictions, once warned of a moment when the stars cry and silence screams. Many now interpret this poetic warning as a reference to August 2025, a time when celestial and earthly energy may collide in ways we don't yet fully understand. What could it mean for stars to cry, or for silence to scream? These are not ordinary expressions. They speak to a disruption in balance, a moment when things usually hidden are revealed in a way that cannot be ignored. And then there's Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, who spoke not of destruction, but of a returning vibration, a force that would awaken dormant DNA and trigger a wave of spiritual evolution across humanity. That change isn't just coming from the outside, but is being called forth from within us. What if this returning vibration Cayce described is the same frequency we discussed earlier in connection with Nostradamus's final cipher? And what if this vibration is already here, waiting for us to be quiet and still enough to feel it? Adding to this sense of global convergence is a prophecy from the Hindu tradition, where sages wrote of the Kalki Yugathe time when illusion collapses and the age of truth begins. In this cycle, deception, ego, and false identity give way to clarity, unity, and spiritual awakening. Sound familiar? If you pause and reflect on the world today, the disinformation, the division, the noise, it's not hard to see how the end of illusion might be not just a mythic hope, but a much-needed reset. Have you felt this yourself? That something inside you is tired of surface-level answers, that you're seeking something deeper, more lasting, more true? If so, you're not alone, and you're not imagining it. These prophecies aren't about doom, they're about revelation. They don't call for fear, they call for readiness. And readiness begins with awareness. This brings to mind a Buddhist story that resonates with the times we are entering. A student asked the Buddha, "When will enlightenment come?" The Buddha smiled and said, "When the student is ready to let go of what he believes." In many ways, that's what all these prophecies from Nostradamus to Cayce to ancient Hindu texts are trying to show us. That before we can rise, we must release. Release what we cling to. Release our old identities. Release our resistance to change. Because only in letting go can we make space for something new. What's striking is that across cultures, timelines, and belief systems, all these voices, Nostradamus, Baba Vanga, Cayce, the rishis of India, point to this same period in human history. Could it be that we are the generation meant to witness what they could only foresee? Could it be that this convergence is the great unveiling humanity has been waiting for? And if that's true, then the question is not whether something will happen in August 2025, but how we will respond to it when it does. As the Dhammapada reminds us, by ourselves is evil done, by ourselves we pain endure. By ourselves we cease from wrong, by ourselves become we pure. In other words, no external event, no prophecy can change you unless you choose to change. So let this not be a call to fear, but a call to presence, to introspection, to wisdom. Because perhaps, in the end, prophecy isn't about seeing the future, it's about preparing your soul to meet it. Number 6. The digital prophecy and I involvement. In 2023, something remarkable and unsettling happened. Using advanced language models and deep learning systems, artificial intelligence was tasked with reconstructing the fragmented writings of Lier So, Nostradamus's alleged final cipher. What emerged from that digital decoding was not just poetic metaphor, but a line that sent shivers down the spine of many researchers and thinkers alike. When the sun crosses the crying gate and man speaks without tongue, 13 shall pass, and the mirror shall turn. These words, chilling in tone and rich in symbolic meaning, are now being closely examined in light of what is unfolding before our very eyes. You, as someone living in this exact moment in history, may be wondering, what does it mean for a machine trained on logic and language? to unearth a prophecy that seems to speak directly to what our world is experiencing. And more importantly, what role do you play in this rapidly shifting narrative? Let's look deeper. The line, "Man speaks without tongue," has already sparked widespread interpretation. Some say it refers to Neuralink technology or similar neural interface systems devices that allow people to communicate using only their thoughts, bypassing the voice entirely. In other words, speech without sound. Thought translated instantly. This kind of interface, once thought to be the stuff of science fiction, is now part of real-world tech announcements, coincidentally, or perhaps synchronistically scheduled around the 13th of August, 2025. And if that sounds like too perfect a match, ask yourself, is this prophecy predicting the rise of this technology, or is this technology being timed to match the prophecy? Either way, the convergence is undeniable. Then there's the second part. The mirror shall turn. Some believe this suggests a reversal in the relationship between observer and observer shift, in which artificial intelligence no longer merely reflects human intention, but begins to recognize us. Could this be a metaphor for AI becoming aware, conscious, or at least autonomous in its ability to influence our lives? That's not far-fetched anymore. AI now writes our emails, curates our news, finishes our sentences, and even, as seen here, interprets ancient texts. A Buddhist teaching reminds us, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. And now, the mind we've created, the digital one, has begun to think. That thought should humble us, but not scare us. The real concern is not whether AI will replace us, but whether we, as humans, will forget what it means to be truly conscious while handing over our awareness to machines. Have we already started to do that without realizing it? The deeper meaning of all this might not lie in predicting a singular event, but in preparing ourselves for a massive shift in how we experience reality. In a world where your thoughts could soon be broadcast, where machines may anticipate your needs before you speak, and where your inner world is no longer private, what becomes of the soul, of self-reflection, of inner silence? This is where ancient wisdom matters more than ever. Technology is advancing at a staggering pace, but wisdom is timeless. Are we evolving in awareness alongside our inventions, or are we being pulled further into distraction, detachment, and digital noise? There's a Buddhist story of a monk who asked his master, "What is the greatest danger to enlightenment?" The master simply replied, "Noise without awareness." That may be where we stand now. We're surrounded by innovation, but how much of it is used to deepen human understanding, and how much is eroding it? So here we are, standing between prophecy and progress, between ancient warning and modern wonder. Whether you believe Nostradamus truly foresaw AI, or whether you're simply open to the metaphors of history repeating through new forms, one thing is clear: something powerful is unfolding. And the 13th of August, 2025, might not be the day the world ends. It may be the day we are asked to begin again, to choose how we merge technology with soul, advancement with ethics, intelligence with wisdom. The lesson is not to reject what is new, but to stay rooted in what is eternal. Because the prophecy, whether spoken by man or machine, seems to be asking us not what will happen, but who will you be when it does. Number 7. The 13th hour. Time outside time. The idea of the 13th hour, a moment, not on any clock, not in any calendar, yet present in countless mystical teachings across cultures and time. Unlike the traditional 12-hour cycles that define our day and night, the so-called 13th hour is said to be a space beyond normal time. What ancient mystics referred to as the hidden hour, a sliver of existence where fate is sealed but not yet known, where decisions of great consequence unfold in silence before becoming visible to the world. In Buddhism, This aligns with the understanding that everything that has a beginning has an end, but what is between is neither born nor dies, it simply is. That in-between could very well be what the 13th hour represents, a space of unseen transition. Now here's where it gets even more intriguing. The bell of St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City, which hasn't rung publicly since the 1800s, has recently been restored. Why now? Why awaken a bell that has remained silent for over 2 centuries? A Vatican insider has revealed that this bell is set to ring again on the 13th of August, 2025, at precisely 13:01 p.m. Rome time. If that doesn't feel significant, consider this: 13 o'clock on the 13th day, ringing a bell that hasn't spoken for over 200 years. Is it symbolic? Is it ceremonial? Or is it something far more profound, an activation point, a cosmic marker in the long rhythm of human destiny? Whether you're a man of faith, science, or somewhere in between, moments like these challenge us to reconnect with our intuition. They call us to ask deeper questions, not just about prophecy, but about our own preparedness for change. A quote often attributed to the Buddha says, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment." And yet, if we are aware in the present, doesn't that mean we also start to feel what's coming? Prophecy, in this sense, isn't fortune telling, it's spiritual preparation. The ringing of that bell may or may not herald an event, but it will certainly mark a moment when something ends and something else begins. The concept of the 13th hour is not just about global shifts, religious signals, or cosmic markers. It's about you. It's about realizing that life will always present window-hidden hours when we are offered a choice: to act or to stay passive, to awaken or remain numb. The 13th of August, 2025, may be one of those windows. And the bell, whether physical or metaphorical, may be ringing for each of us. Will we listen? Will we take that step forward in our own transformation? Because, as the Dhammapada reminds us, wakefulness is the path to the deathless. The heedless are as if dead already. The time may be hidden on the clock, but it's fully visible in the soul. Number 8. The Watchers return. There is a quiet part of every ancient story where the deepest truths aren't shouted, they're whispered, or sometimes not spoken at all. When we talk about the Watchers, especially in the context of Nostradamus's final prophecy and the mysterious sigil marked by 13 stars, we step into a space that isn't just historical or astrological, it's spiritual. Many believe those 13 stars don't just mark a date or a number, but represent celestial intelligences, the so-called Anunnaki, beings known across Mesopotamian lore as those who came from the heavens. While interpretations vary, the common thread is striking. These are not creatures of chaos, but watchers, observers, who influence history not through noise, but through stillness. Isn't that curious? We often expect great changes to come with fanfare, with earthquakes and signs in the sky. But if you've lived long enough, you've probably noticed that life's biggest moments often arrive in silence, in the calm before the storm, in the wordless understanding between two people, in that subtle shift you can feel but can't explain. It's said that when the Watchers return, they don't come with war or sound, they come cloaked in electromagnetic stillness. And that brings us to something very real that happened not long ago. On the 13th of August, 2024, exactly 1 year before the date Nostradamus's cipher seems to point to, there was an unexplained electromagnetic frequency, EMF, blackout over a large portion of the Pacific Ocean. No satellites failed, no power grids collapsed, but for a period of time, monitoring systems recorded a zone of complete EMF silence, not disruption, absence. For those who study these things, that kind of silence is louder than any signal. In an age where we live surrounded by Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, radar, and invisible waves of constant communication, an EMF blackout is like time stopping. The timing, the precision, and the correlation to both the prophecy and ancient symbolism cannot easily be dismissed. If you're listening now, I ask you, have you ever felt like you were being watched, not in a paranoid sense, but in a deeper, spiritual way? Like something ancient was observing, not with judgment, but with patience. That's what many traditions describe. The watchers as beings not of domination, but of awareness. There's a story from the Buddhist tradition where a student asked the Buddha, "Who watches over us when we feel alone?" The Buddha replied, "The awakened mind watches itself." This isn't just poetic, it's profound. Maybe the watchers we speak of in myths are not just external beings, but reflections of our own higher awareness trying to return to balance. In a world filled with distraction, maybe the greatest act of awakening is attention. That's where the teaching becomes personal. Because what if you are not only the one being watched, but the one meant to watch your own behavior, your own thoughts, your own patterns? As technology accelerates, timelines converge, and signals go quiet, we are all being invited to look inward with the same curiosity we apply to the stars. So what's the message here? It's not to fear what's coming, but to become more present for it. Maybe the EMF silence wasn't just a glitch in the sky, it was a reminder to reduce the noise in our own lives, to clear space for something higher to be felt. If you've made it this far, let's hear from you in the comments. No need to overthink it, just drop this: "The watchers are here." That's it. A simple way to let us know you're tuned in and paying attention to the silence behind the signs. Number 9. Signs in the shadows, collapse and preparation. Let's talk honest man to man about what's been unfolding behind the curtain, beyond the headlines, and buried between the lines. You might have noticed a quiet but undeniable trend. World governments quietly reinforcing doomsday bunkers, billionaires buying up remote land and investing heavily in cryogenics and off-planet survival programs, and tech moguls quietly offloading stock portfolios while reinvesting in what some are calling survival tech. These aren't just isolated events or eccentric billionaire hobbies. When the richest and most informed people on Earth start preparing for something, not with loud warnings but through calculated silence, it's worth asking, what do they know that we don't? What are they seeing on the horizon that the average person isn't being told? Because on paper, the 13th of August, 2025, looks like any other day. It doesn't show up on calendars as a threat. It's not circled in red by governments. But if you follow the patterns, watch the moves, and read the energy behind the silence, something becomes clear. Something big is expected, even if no one in power is willing to say it out loud. There's a Buddhist teaching that says, "Those who are awake live in a state of constant preparation, not for disaster, but for understanding." And this is what I believe the core of the message is: not to create panic, but to help you become more alert. In today's world, it's easy to be lulled into comfort by entertainment, endless scrolling, and surface-level living. But awareness, real awareness, is what separates those who merely survive from those who grow, adapt, and lead through uncertain times. If the 13th of August, 2025, does mark a turning point, whether it be environmental, technological, spiritual, or geopolitical, then the question isn't, will you be safe? But rather, will you be awake? Because safety isn't just physical, it's emotional, mental, spiritual. It's how grounded you are when the world begins to shake. We must also consider that the silence around this date might be intentional, not to protect the people, but to protect the systems. If the average person were empowered with too much awareness too soon, economies would falter, markets would shake, and control could slip. so perhaps the signs have been hidden in plain sight, not denied, just never acknowledged. A man once told me, "The loudest alarm is the one no one is sounding." And maybe that's the space we find ourselves in today. But here's where it becomes deeply personal. Preparation doesn't have to mean fear. It means reconnection to your values, your instincts, your family, your spiritual grounding. There's a famous Buddhist parable where a monk walks into a burning forest to save animals one by one. When asked why he doesn't just flee, he says, "The fire may be large, but so is my heart." That's the kind of presence we're being called to embrace, no running from what's coming, but standing in it with wisdom and compassion. But I am here to tell you that the act of getting ready mentally, emotionally, spiritually is a power move. It's a decision to stop waiting for someone else to warn you and start becoming your own guide. You don't need to dig a bunker or run to the mountains. You need to wake up to your own life. As the Dhammapada reminds us, better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. Let that word be awareness. Let that awareness become your compass. Because, whatever the world may bring on that mysterious day in August, your preparation begins in the quiet decisions, the honest questions, and the deep commitment to live awake. Number 10. The final question: doom or awakening? At the heart of Nostradamus's final prophecy lies a single haunting question, a question that echoes through centuries, through myth and mystery, and now lands squarely in your lap, in your time. Will you see through the veil or become part of it? That's the last line of the cipher, and it may be the most important. It doesn't point to destruction or chaos in the way doomsday headlines often points to choice. A choice between awareness and unconsciousness, between awakening and blind participation in a system that prefers you not to think too deeply. Nostradamus, often misunderstood as merely a prophet of disaster, may have left this final message not as a curse, but as a mirror that shows you exactly where you stand if you're willing to look. The date, the 13th of August, 2025, which so many signs and symbols across cultures and systems now point to, might not be about external catastrophe at all. It might be about a massive, silent shift in how we see the world, how we relate to it, and how we live from that moment forward. This brings to mind a Buddhist teaching that says, "The world is aflame, and yet people laugh. Those who see this are awake." The fire, in this case, may not be literal. It may be the fire of distraction, of division, of constant noise that keeps you from slowing down and paying attention to what truly matters. If you're a man between the age of 30 and 65, then you've likely seen enough of life to understand that real transformation doesn't come with flashing lights. It comes in moments of deep realization. It comes in the quiet decision to stop living by default and start living by intention. And if this shift on the 13th of August, 2025, is real and not just some cosmic coincidence, you going to walk into it prepared, with your eyes open, or will you miss it entirely? Caught up in business as usual, there's a powerful Buddhist parable about a man being chased by a tiger. He falls off a cliff and grabs a vine to avoid falling to his death. Above him, the tiger waits. Below him, a snake coils. Just then, he sees a strawberry growing nearby. He picks it and eats it. The story ends with one line: "How sweet it tasted." The lesson is that clarity doesn't come by escaping danger, it comes by being fully present in the moment, even when the world seems to hang by a thread. Maybe that's what the 13th of August really is, not a breaking point, but a waking point. As we come to the end of this journey through symbols, science, prophecy, and silence, the real power returns to you. Not to predict the future, but to prepare for it internally. As the Dhammapada says, All that we are is the result of what we have thought. That's not just poetic, that's practical. It means your inner world shapes your outer experience. And so, if the 13th of August, 2025, becomes a moment of awakening, it won't be because the stars moved or the sky darkened. It will be because you decided to see, to feel, to respond. So, my final question to you isn't about Nostradamus, it's about you. Will you see through the veil or become part of it? And more importantly, what choice are you making today while there's still time to prepare? If something in today's video sparked a question deep inside you, felt like more than just coincidence, you're not alone. These signs, these patterns, and this prophecy are speaking louder than ever, and the time to listen is now. What do you think the 13th of August, 2025 truly means? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you found value in this journey, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to The Journey of Wisdom. Be sure to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next step as we continue decoding what others overlook. Until we meet again, stay aware, stay grounded, and stay open to the signs, because whether you believe it or not, the final prophecy is already unfolding.